Uh, Today, in the last class, I think I have told you about pollination and the pollination in different types of plants and the types of pollination. And we'll just recollect that there are some types of pollination we have known, like if pollination by birds called ornithophily, pollination by insect entomophily, pollination by animals zoophily, pollination by mollusk is called malacophily, pollination by elephant is called elephophily, which is found in Rafflesia, and in pollination in birds ornithophily you find in bombax, that means your what do you call this red silk cotton tree. Now there are certain disadvantages and advantages I have discussed in self-pollination. Similarly, there are advantages in cross-pollination also. Now what are the advantages in cross-pollination? In cross-pollination you will find that usually there is a mixture of the genes. That means it can lead to variation. So number one is that it can lead to a variety of genes and there is a variation. In some cases in cross-pollination also you see there is a process of elimination. That means the bad genes are eliminated, so the survival of the species is better in cross-pollination than in self-pollination. Usually I told you that nature always favors cross-pollination. Usually they are produced disease-resistant plants, and there's a term called hybrid vigor. Usually when two different genes or hybrids they are combining in case of cross-pollination, that reason to increase what you call the vigorous or hybrid vigor, that means the plants are generated from the offsprings are better than the parent plants. Now there are disadvantages also, like say for example in cross-pollination you have to always be dependent on other agents, like say for wind you have to be dependent on insect, you have to be dependent even on animals, you have to be dependent in case of zoophily, in case of water, in case of hydrophily. That means it's a dependent process, whereas in self-pollination it's an independent process. It will take place automatically. Plus in cross-pollination is usually a very wasteful process, like pollen grains are produced in large number, and usually the dusty pollen grains you will find, and then this is causing a loss of energy. And sometimes also we say that undesirable characters may come in case of cross-pollination. So sometimes self-pollination is favored in culture of plants with which have a very good quality. Like if you have a very good mango plant, usually we go for a vegetative propagation, or you can go for a self-pollination to preserve the species. Okay. Now the next topic that we are going to take up is fertilization. Fertilization is a process where the fusion of the male and the female gamete takes place. Usually I told you earlier also that it's a syngamy, that means the fusion of the male and the gamete if it takes place, and isogamous if they are similar type, both the gametes are same type, we call isogamous. Now this term fertilization was first found by 1884 by Strasburger. So that's the contribution of the scientist. You have to know Strasburger is the name who has contributed to the process of fertilization. Now when the pollen grains fall on the stigma, usually there must be a compatibility between the species. That means pollination takes place always between the same species. You cannot expect a mango plant being pollinated by a banyan pollen grain. So this pollen pistil interaction takes place. So when the pollen grain falls on the stigma has a recognition system whether the correct pollen grain has fallen on. And then there are certain types of enzyme like cutinase and certain types of sugars are produced on the stigmal end, so that the development of the pollen tube takes place. Now this pollen tube is called the germination of the pollen tube, where the intine wall of the pollen grain breaks through the exine wall, and then it penetrates through the stigma and the style. Sometimes the style is solid, so in that case the pollen tube passes through the intercellular cell. If the style is hollow, then it passes freely through this hollow tube of the style and reaches the ovule. Now in case if the pollen grain enters through the chelazal end, we call it chelazogamy. If it enters through the micropyle, we call it porogamy. If it enters in between the chelaza and the micropyle, we call it mesogamy. So you will find that different types of the entry of the pollen tube takes place. In mesogamy, you find in the cucurbits and populus. Cucurbits are the family of the gourd, like cucumbers, like bitter gourd, bottleneck gourd, etc. And chelazogamy you find in betula and casuarina, and porogamy, that means there's a maximum you find porogamous, that means through the micropyle it ends. So in most of the plants, porogamy is the most common form of the entry of the pollen game. Now, as I told you that in this process of fertilization, usually the discharge of the male gametes from the pollen tube takes place. Now, when this tube nucleus reaches the micropyle, this pollen tube of the pollen tube that disintegrates, and the function of the tube nucleus is over, because the function of the tube nucleus is to direct the pollen tube till the micropylar end or through the chelazal end. Now after that, as soon as it disintegrates, the generative nucleus, which is the second nucleus found inside the pollen grain, that divides into the two male gametes. Now these two male gametes has two definite purpose. Already in the previous earlier class I have told you that inside the embryo sac there are two nucleus. One is the endosperm nucleus, which is already formed by the fusion of one of the cells of the antipodal cells and one of the cells from the synergid cell, which is already 2n, that means it is diploid. Now this endosperm or definitive nucleus fuses with one of the male gametes to form the endosperm nucleus. Endosperm is the nutritive tissue that we find in case of plants, and that develops into the endosperm of the seed. And the second male gamete that fuses with the egg nucleus, that it penetrates in between the two synergid cells, and sometimes between the two synergid cells and the cell wall, sometimes in between the egg cell and the synergid cell, and then fuses with the egg cell to form the zygote. Now this zygote gives rise to the embryo, the developing embryo, which we will know as the embryogenesis. Now so we have here the development of the endosperm, which is the nutritive tissue which surrounds in the seed. Beside it's not the cotyledon. Endosperm is separate from the cotyledon. Cotyledon is also a nutritive tissue. Endosperm is also a nutritive tissue. Now this endosperm persists in some case. Some seeds we call those endospermic seeds or albuminous seed. And sometimes the endosperm disintegrates or merges with the cotyledon, and then we call them non-endospermic seed. Like say for example, a castor is an endospermic seed which has a persisting endosperm. Or there are certain types of non-endospermic bean seed or what you call gram seeds, they are non-endospermic seeds. Now the development after this process of fertilization, the embryo takes development of the embryo takes place. In case of monocot, it goes a definite process. In case of dicot plant, it goes in a definite process. So there are two different processes of the development that we study under the embryogenesis. The next thing that I am going to discuss is the types of endosperm. Now there are three types of endosperm development. The first type is called the nuclear endosperm, which is find mostly in the angiosperms of polypetalous angiosperms. Here the nucleus divides freely, and the cell wall formation does not take place. Okay, so that is the typical thing of nuclear endosperm, and almost 56% of the families in the plant are of nuclear endosperm type. In Cocos nucifera, you will find there is a liquid syncytium. The watery fluid contains the nucleus, and this is a typical example of the nuclear endosperm. And the second type is the cellular endosperm, which is found in 25% of the families, and the halobial type of endosperm we find in the 19% of the families. Now what is the cellular endosperm? Here it divides into two unequal divisions, and this cell wall formation takes place from the beginning. And the first wall is transverse division, but subsequent divisions may be irregular type of division. And we find this mostly in the gamopetalous dicotyledonous family. Like in nuclear endosperm, it is polypetalous. In case of cellular endosperm, it is the gamopetalous type. The third type is the halobial endosperm, where it is intermediate. It's a merging between the nuclear type and the cellular type. Now here it is, you will find in the family of Halobi, it's the least found, and the first division of the primary and endosperm nucleus is accompanied by the formation of the transverse wall. But the cell towards a micropylar end, they have a cellular type, usually the cell wall formation, the free nuclear division in the micropylar chamber takes place. After that, the wall formation takes place. So, here it is little bit intermediate between the cellular type and the nuclear type of endosperm. Now, that is all for today, and go through the chapter. If you have any question, you can put up the question, and of course I'll try to answer. Thank you very much.